First Minister, the whole of my region and communities breathed a sigh of relief when news broke of the deal being struck between Tata and ThyssenKrupp. It ended years of uncertainty for workers at Port Talbot and Deeside. So the Port Talbot works is to get one of its blast furnaces repaired, helping to guarantee the jobs of the thousands of employees until 2026. However, I note from the announcement that the firm only have an ambition to avoid compulsory redundancies until then. So it's clear that the sector still needs significant help if it is to succeed. First Minister, what additional support is the Welsh Government going to offer the steel sector in Wales in general and the Port Talbot plant in particular?
Well, a £60 million package that we've already alluded to in this chamber and outside. The UK Government have offered nothing, and there's been no interest at all from the UK Government for the past 2 years. There was, when David Cameron was there was interest, and I acknowledge that. Since then, nothing. I do, however, welcome the deal, and the unions have given it a welcome as well. I think we have to remember we have then the guarantee of no compulsory redundancies until 2026. We also have, of course, the promises in relation to Blast Furnace 5. 2 years ago, things were very bleak indeed. There was a real question mark as to whether the heavy end of Port Talbot could continue in the future. The plant was up for sale. We've come a huge way since then. Part of that is because of the work that we've put in as a government, the money we've put on the table, the talking that's taken place, the engagement that we've had with Tata, and in the 2 years since 2016, when things looked very difficult indeed, we now have, so don't pretend that things are at the woods yet, but we now have as our steel industry in a far stronger position than it was then.
Thank you for that answer, First Minister. The UK Government does indeed have a lot more to do for this sector. This strategy to use 3 million tonnes of steel in the next 5 years on infrastructure projects like HS2, Hinkley C and the upgrading of the UK motorways. But this doesn't go far enough because every single infrastructure project should be using UK steel, and every defence project should be using Welsh and UK steel. And every publicly funded and supported project should also be using UK steel. So has your government suggested this in your discussions with the UK government? We can't afford to lose our steel industry because of the short-sightedness of government policy. It is of strategic importance to our nation that we maintain steel production here in the UK, which means here in Wales. First Minister, is your government considering other ways to support the sector in Wales, perhaps looking at a tidal lagoon at Port Talbot, which will help to reduce energy costs for the plant?
Well, I think we have to be careful here because the steel industry, like other industries, does depend on an export market. If we actually say to other countries only steel from Britain is allowed to be used in Britain, they'll say, well, tough, you're not entering our markets either. So we have to be very careful about what we do. What we do need to do, of course, is to make sure that our procurement policy is as strong as it can be as far as using Welsh steel. We also need to make sure, of course, that we support the industry to become stronger in terms of exporting. And certainly a small but significant amount of steel is exported to the US, where the tariffs now have made it, well, not so much difficult for Welsh steel, but more expensive for their buyers in the US. So we've just got to be very careful here in saying, well, if it's only British steel from Britain used in British projects, well, other countries will then take the same attitude, and we must be careful not to cut ourselves off from the export market.
Thank you, First Minister. While the steel industry is of national and strategic importance, we can't ignore the impact that it has on our environment. Living in the shadow of the Port Talbot plant, I see on a daily basis the effect the steelworks has on the environment, with huge plumes of acrid orange smoke released into the air that we breathe, and thick layers of dust covering everything from our cars to our windows. So it's little wonder that Port Talbot has been ranked as one of the most polluted towns in the UK. It is not as bad as it once was, because gone are the days of the acid rain. However, the impact on human health is still present and still a threat. So, First Minister, what actions will your government be taking to ensure that investment at the plant doesn't come at a cost to human lives?
Well, I think in fairness to Tata, they have certainly improved the situation in terms of emissions over many years, including looking at reusing the gas that is flared for energy in the plant. Inevitably, where there's a steelworks, that will have an effect on air quality. But the key is, of course, to make sure that that effect is minimised over the years. But Talbot also, of course, has a very congested stretch of motorway, which is well below the standard that would be built these days, and it's a problem that's not easy to resolve because it would take a significant amount of money to resolve the issue by looking purely at a road-based solution in Port Talbot. But we want to make sure that we work with Tata, and Tata have been doing this anyway over the years, that the steelworks reduces its emissions, which it has done, as the members recognised, and to continue that trend in the future.
Question 3.
Question 3, David Rees.
What